ॐ विश्वस्मै नमः। ॐ विष्णवे नमः। ॐ भूतभव्यभवत्प्रभवे नमः। ॐ पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनाय नमः। ॐ मुक्तानां परमायै गतये नमः। ॐ लोकत्रय आश्रयाय नमः। ॐ शोकनाशनाय नमः। ॐ सर्वप्रहरण आयुधाय नमः। Verse 33, Sri Vishnu Sahasranama. युगादित्कृत् युगावर्तः नैकमायो महाशनः अदृश्यो व्यक्तरूपश्च सहस्रजित् अनन्तजित्. This is again another verse where there are exactly 8 names, 2 of them in each of the 4 parts. Yugaditkrut and Yugavartaha, Naikamaya Mahashanaha, Adrushyaha Vyaktarupaha, Sahasrajit Anantajit. Yugaditkrut Yugavartaha, Naikamaya Mahashanaha, Adrushyaha Vyaktarupaha, Sahasrajit Anantajit. Yugaditkrut, creator of yugas. He is the creator of the divisions of yugas as they are described in Puranas. These yugas are 4 in number: Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Mahavishnu is a lord of time. Yuga also indicates all other divisions of time like centuries, years, months, weeks, days, hours, minutes, and even seconds. He is not only the Lord of the Yugas, but he is also the light of consciousness that illumines the duration of each experience and the very interval between every pair of subjective experiences. Bhagavan is the creator of yugas. He is also the force, he is also the driving force behind the wheel of time. Yuga avartaha, yuga avartaha, yuga avartaha, rotator of the yuga chakra, the wheel of time. The previous name, Yugadit indicated, means the supreme as the creator of the yugas. Yugavartaha means he is also the power behind the wheel of time that goes on changing and repeating itself endlessly. So, Mahavishnu is not only Lord of time, but he is also the mighty administrator of the performance of time, the very law behind the constant flow of the flood of time. Along with yugas, he also manifests in many illusory forms. Na ekamayaha, naikamayaha, which means many illusory forms. All his forms are illusory, not real, because he himself has no name and form. And whatever forms, whatever names we associate with his manifestations are based on our perception, our understanding clouded by Maya. He assumes endless and variegated delusory forms. We can call them delusory or illusory because they are not real. And why does he do it? He does it for sustaining the world and for maintaining the order and rhythm of creation. The Lord has taken many manifestations different forms. Each of his manifestations have been designed special and they are very, very well suited for the times of his arrival. And whenever in any particular form, a particular Rakshasa or a demon manifests, accordingly, he takes a manifestation. The best example is that of Narasimha Avatara. Nara and Simha, neither fully man nor animal. And this particular form was taken only because Hiranyakashipa had sought a boon from Lord Brahma that he will not be killed either by a man or by animal or by a bird. So now Mahavishnu had to take this form, which was neither fully of a man nor of an animal, half man and half lion, Narasimha Avtara. Similarly, Lord Rama was born as a human being because Ravana, when he sought boons, he made himself invincible for almost every other species except man and monkey, Nara and Vanara, because he thought they are too insignificant to ever harm him. Precisely because of that, Mahavishnu takes the form of a human being like Rama and born in a normal biological way, so that fully satisfying the condition which was imposed, condition inherent in the boon given by Lord Brahma. So thus we have 10 incarnations, some say 22 incarnations of Mahavishnu, but all these manifestations serve a particular purpose. Each manifestation gives a different meaning. For example, his manifestation as a Krishna and manifestation of Rama, we find how one and the same Mahavishnu generated different attitudes and emotions in different types of people. Again, this suited the particular phase, particular time. Naikamayaha is one who has realized the self, and once a person realizes the self, thereafter he can freely play through all the existing vasanas, and none of them can ever entangle him because he has overcome Maya. He has become the master of his own vasanas. The common example which we know is, for example, our relationship with money. Money, we should be the master of the money. We should be the master of the wealth and not become a slave to money or slave to wealth. Because same money, if it is under our control and our subordination, then it will be a tool in our hands. Otherwise, the money will make us dance to its tune. Same is true of vasanas. Now, Maya, otherwise called avidya, it is basically constituted of vasanas. And vasanas, another name for vasanas is the causal body. We are the gross body, physical body, we are a subtle body called mind and intellect, and innermost layer is the causal body, because of which it is called causal body. The vasanas are called a causal body. Because of these vasanas only, we are born again and again in this temporal world. Now, once a person is able to transcend these, then he realizes the infinite. So there is no need for such a person to ever come back. Lord is one who is without Maya, unlike we ordinary mortals. We are under the spell of Maya. Whereas the Lord, he is not under the spell of Maya. He wields Maya for his purpose. For him, Maya is an instrument. He himself will not become involved in it. He will not be subordinate to Maya. That's the main difference between the super self and the ordinary mortal human beings. Vishnu is also called Mahashanaha, the great consumer, one great eater. He consumes, he swallows. What does he swallow? He swallows up all our perceptions. all our emotions, all our thoughts, and helps us to get the liberation. Mahashanaha, he swallows up everything, our perceptions, our emotions, our thoughts, which all of which are created by the vasanas at various levels of personality. For instance, vasanas create perceptions in the mind, in our karmendriyas. They create emotions in our mind. They create thoughts in our intellect. Now, a person who is able to overcome the vasanas, Mahavishnu helps us to control the vasanas. Once we are able to control the vasanas, automatically all the perceptions, emotions, and thoughts they simply vanish. So, in a way, we say Mahavishnu is swallowing up all perceptions, emotions, and thoughts. That is, in a very positive way, by helping us to outgrow our vasanas. So only then our personality develops. It's possible at the time of samadhi, when the limited ego is subdued, subjugated, sublimated, and the supreme is experienced. All the expressions of vasanas, they are, as it were, just to so to say, they are swallowed up by that infinite experience. In that sense, Mahavishnu is described as consumer of everything, Mahashanaha. So this is to be understood in a very, very positive way. He consumes everything, but he is invisible. Adrushyaha. Drushyaha, Adrushyaha. He is invisible. Though through our sense organs, through our mind and intellect, we are able to perceive, we are conscious only of external beings and objects. A person other than ourselves, we are able to interact. An object which is physically outside, we are able to see. We are able to interact with a person, a living being, an animal outside us. But Supreme is not like this. The Supreme is not an object to be perceived by our senses. Yaha chakshuhu na pashyati, yaha chakshuhu na pashyati, one which the eyes cannot see, yaha manasa na manute, the one which the mind cannot comprehend, yataha vachaka nivartante aprapya manasa saha, one without obtaining which, without able to obtain which, even the words and thoughts which try to do that return back. That means they are thrown back. They are not able to see. One which eyes cannot see, one which the mind cannot comprehend, unable to obtain which or reach which, the words and thoughts return. Yaha chakshuhu na pashyati, yaha manasa na manute, yata vachaka nivartante, aprapya manasa saha, including the mind, including thoughts. This is so because he is not an object, not an external object, not an object which can be perceived with our external senses, but he is the supreme core, eternal essence lying within us, wherein the perceived and instrument of perceptions are totally absent. There is a very, very interesting story about Hiranyakashipa. Hiranyakashipa was trying to find out, fish out Mahavishnu and harm him. For that, he was searching for him everywhere. He went to Vaikuntha. He could not see Mahavishnu. He searched for Mahavishnu throughout the world, throughout the universe. He could not see. This is one thing which he was asking even Prahlada. Show me my enemy, show me Hari. No, he could not see. Then somebody asked, Brahma asked Vishnu, how is that you manage to become invisible to him? He said, Mahavishnu said, very simple. I hid myself in a place which he was never going to look at. Which is the one? I said, I went and hid in his heart. So Mahavishnu was hiding in the heart of Hiranyakashipa. Hiranyakashipa is a person who never looked inside. That means he never looks, he never introspects, he never has a antar chakshu. So this is a story, but actually the what meaning is conveyed is the supreme is in all our hearts. If we are not able to see, if we are not able to perceive the supreme within us, then we are also like that ignorant, foolish, arrogant, egoistic Hiranyakashipu. So that is the message which this small story gives us. The ultimate reality, by its very nature, is not an object of perception, hence imperceptible. So hence it's called Adrushya, is called Adrushya. He is Adrushya, but he is a very perceiver in all our perceptions. For example, he is not different from my physical eyes. Then how will the eye see itself? It cannot. Buddhihi indriyanam agamyaha adrushyaha. He will not cannot be seen by buddhi and our intellects. But the real issue is, real fact is, he is only apparently invisible. But actually he is very much visible. He is Vyakta Rupa. He is manifested himself in any number of forms. Only we should be able to have that vision to see him manifested form. He has manifested himself in hundreds and millions. He's, he has manifested himself for every living being right around us. For example, a father can see the Paramatma in his own baby. A child can see the Paramatma in the father. A husband can see in his wife. A wife can see in the husband. He is everywhere. We have to see that. So, the manifested form, which we are able to understand, which we can follow, then we will be able to perceive. So, this supreme is clearly perceptible in meditation to a meditator. The preceding name Adrishya is said imperceptible to normal physical instruments. But if one is able to transcend the physical equipment, that is normal physical body and physical senses, which a yogi is able to do, then the yogi is able to intimately experience. It is not see or hear or a touch. It is experience. It is called anubhava, anubhuti. The Paramatma has to be experienced, felt. It cannot be described. So even a Gnani, even a great Guru, even if he has a darshan, he cannot give darshan to you. He cannot physically show you, but he can guide you so that you also you can experience the same supreme within yourself. Thus, ordinarily, it is not easy to see the supreme, but in the devotee's heart, the Lord comes to play vividly and drives the devotee mad in his ecstasy. Again, the best example is of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, to many people, he looked like a mad person. Because he was not mad, he was in ecstasy. When Swami Vivekananda went and asked him, have you seen the Supreme? Yes, I am seeing every day. He was able to do this because he has reached that level of identity meditation. So he was a Paramahamsa, supreme yogi, supreme knowledgeable man. Now, the same senses, when turned inwards and mind is immersed in meditation, the supreme becomes manifest. It has happened in the case of Markandeya, Dhruva, Prahalada, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Vivekananda, any number of these elevated souls. Now, the Supreme takes many forms to conquer and punish the wrongdoers. He is called Sahasrajit, conqueror of thousands. He has conquered, he has banished thousands of diabolically fallen individuals who are called Rakshasas, Asuras. There is nothing like an Asura. Is a Rakshasa Pravritti, Asura Pravritti. A person having that nature is becomes so. So Mahavishnu comes, his intention is not to kill the person. His intention is to destroy the negativity, the Asuri Bhava, Asuri Tattva in that particular individual. Because of this, they harass the virtuous. The noble souls are harassed by him. To protect the noble soul, to protect the righteous, supreme appears, takes incarnations to punish the unrighteous. Subjectively, what we are trying to say is Asuri Tattva is the passions, the lust, greeds, jealousies, normally referred to as the Arishad Varga, Raga Dveshas, Kama Krodha, Lobha Moha. These are the ones which are the enemies. They come and enter, invade our bosom and tries to stay there. They disturb our tranquility and our peace of mind. These are ultimately to be vanquished by the higher consciousness, nothing other than the same Supreme Paramatma, which we choose to call Mahavishnu. Therefore, the self is indicated as the one who is ever victorious over all the lower impulses. He is also Anantajit, ever victorious over innumerable enemies of the mankind. So now again, the victory of the Lord is endless. In every incarnation, ultimately, he alone wins. The victory over negative forces becomes complete only when the higher consciousness is experienced. Hence, the self is indicated here as the Anantajit. Such a noble and powerful being, powerful consciousness, is extremely pleasant and liked by all righteous persons. So, he is called Ishtaha, which is the very first name in the next verse, which we'll take up in the next episode. सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः